Welcome to this session of the bridge course for history. So you all are aspiring for civil services. So what we thought is, instead of directly taking into subjects in detail, we'll have a kind of bridge course. So bridge course is something you've already been exposed to certain classes by Vivek sir and other faculty. So I am Nishanth. So I'll be dealing with history part at Reflections Academy. So my experience includes 6 mains and 3 interviews, and I've been in teaching field for last 6 to 7 years. So guided many of the students like you who are now in civil services. So before entering into today's topics, which is mainly ancient India, that is the Harappan culture and the rise of Buddhism and Jainism. Of course, I'll not go very much deep your actual PCM course. Okay, so which will help you bridge the gap between what is the demand, what you have been studying in your schools or colleges, and what are certain important aspects as a UPSC aspirant you should have when you read certain subjects. So that will be the context of our class for next 1.5 to 2 hours. Last 10 minutes. So today, tomorrow, and day after we have classes, and again we'll meet in the next week. So last 10 to 15 minutes, I'll leave it as an open forum because I'm told that most of you are joining coaching for the first time, or planning to give attempts in the coming years like 24, 25. So you people have time, you people have energy, you people have uh, many other resources, but you must be bombarded with a lot of doubts. So in that context, I can help you as to what doubts you have with regard to history or in general with regard to the civil services preparation. Okay. So yeah. So what are the classes which you have studied till date? Just give me a minute. Yeah. Is it much better now? Sirisha? Yeah. So economy, polity, geography. Good. So economy, polity, and geography. So how did you feel about it? How did you feel about these subjects? I'm sure you must have got good exposure to the basics. How did you feel about these subjects? What did you feel about economy? What did you feel about polity? What did you feel about geography? Yeah, Gautam. I hope I'm audible. Yes? Yeah. Okay. So basically, you have done three important static subjects, which is economy, polity, and geography. So why they are called static subjects is not that there is no change in the subjects. As far as UPSC is concerned, every topic is linked to current affairs. Okay. So but why these topics are called static subjects is because the basics, the basics of these topics remain the same. Okay. Like for example, if you do economy, if you know the concept of inflation, okay, then the concept of inflation is same across the economy. Only thing is, you read inflation, you get a good idea of what exactly is inflation, what are the different types of inflation, how inflation is measured, and then you correlate with the current affairs as to why inflation is increasing or decreasing in the present scenario. So that is how you interrelate what you have studied in the classroom to what you have read in the newspapers. And then coming to the polity. In polity, again, the Constitution of India is the Bible. You have different articles, you have different uh, schedules. All these are something which you read. You read fundamental rights, you read DPSPs, fundamental duties, what are the powers of parliament, what are the powers of state legislature, how is the president appointed, so on and so forth. And then you relate it with the newspaper articles on various judgments on fundamental rights or various matters. That is how you relate the static content to your current affairs. Again, similarly, geography, you see that there are so many landslides happening in Himachal Pradesh. If you open the newspaper, you see that there are so many landslides happening in Himachal Pradesh. So it is because of certain issues. So what are those issues? Why do landslides happen? What are the things we have to do to mitigate the landslides? Similarly, why does an earthquake happen? What is it called a tectonic activity? What are the resources in India? Where is rice grown in abundance? Where is wheat grown in abundance? All this, when you know, you get an exposure, and then when you read a newspaper, you get much better clarity on what is happening around you. Similarly, coming to history, history also is an evolving subject, I would say, because every now and then in newspapers, you see the articles of just yesterday in the Hindu newspaper. You could see that in Kerala they wanted to dig something and they have bumped into a megalithic burial. That was the headline. There are so many historic sites. Why history is important? Because it gives you an idea as to how a particular culture has evolved. For example, the Indus Valley civilization, the Aryan civilization, how a particular religion has grown into prominence or how a religion has gone out of existence. What are the reasons behind a religion coming up? So history gives you a detailed summary about certain sequence of events which help you to understand certain aspects of the present society. So if the present society, we all speak about the caste system. So what are the roots of caste system? You have an answer in history. What are the different religions in the present world? How did they come up? You have an answer in history. Why still there are clashes between certain ethnicities? you have an answer in history. So, right from how the early man evolved and how they evolved over a period of time, and throughout the history, how from a very naive human being to the most civilized creature on this earth, how the man has evolved and what are the various aspects during his evolution. History is one such subject which gives you many insights into these questions. So that's why UPSC, if you see, over many decades, history has always been given utmost prominence, be it your preliminary examination or your mains examination. In that context, being a UPSC aspirant, you have to have good command on history and its basics. So most of them think history is something like you need to by heart dates, times, names of the kings, names of the dynasties. I would say it is a complete no to such approach. Having been a history student myself, the best approach for history is follow the timeline, love the subject. Because sometimes, when we go to concepts like medieval age and other parts, history may get certain dry form, very much understandable. But how do you come out of that kind of mindset is read it like a timeline. When you read it like a timeline, which of course we'll deal in a very extensive way when we take up the classes for the PCM batches. So we'll try to get into such approaches. But my advice to you all is read history as a timeline approach. So when you read it like a timeline approach, okay, you may have a doubt. Sir, what do you mean by timeline approach? So when you read like a timeline, for example, when we talk about ancient India, we have a timeline of the ancient early man to the 7th century CE up to Harshavardhana. This timeline is called ancient. From 7th century to the advent of British, that is Battle of Plassey, it is called medieval. And from 1757 or 1707 onwards, that is from Battle of Plassey to up to 1947, it is called the modern India or the freedom struggle for Indian independence. So what happens is, these are the broad categorizations. Within ancient, there are certain dynasties which have ruled India. Within medieval, there are some 10 dynasties which have ruled India, North and South India. You have to remember them, or you have to know something about them. How do you do it? So if you intentionally go and make a mindset of remembering each and every fact you have read, you may be turned away from the subject. Instead, what you have to do is read it very casually. When you are reading it for the first or second time, read it casually, that you want to know many aspects of history. When you read it with such enthusiasm, without making a conscious effort, you'll automatically remember many things. And then over a period of time, when you revise it multiple times, you actually get very good command over the subject. And then the last part of the getting grip of a subject is having analytical thinking. Because the textbook may say many things. It may speak on a particular subject from the author's point of view. But what is your take on it? if there is the rule of Ashoka, what do you think are the pros and cons of Ashokan rule? Because UPSC is not trying to ask you what you have read in the textbook. They are trying to ask you what you have understood and analyzed from reading in the textbook. So throughout UPSC, it is you who should come out with what you have understood by reading so much of content across various subjects. So that is what determines you and your personality. Every answer is unique. So obviously, when so many people are writing mains, it's not that everyone will write the same answer, right? Even in this class, we are 15 people. We may not write the same answer every single time. Okay, we may not write the same answer every single time. Or if we are all given a question now, we may write different answers. So, but what we have to consciously or cautiously emphasize is the answer we write should be as per the demand of the question. Anyhow, that practice and all we'll do over the next 6 to 8 months as our course begins. So today we'll try to have certain basics about Harappan culture and the advent of Jainism and Buddhism. So before I start, is it clear what I wanted to tell you? Are you all clear? Yeah. So we'll start. So we'll start the discussion on Harappan culture. Harappan culture is also called as Indus Valley civilization. Indus Valley civilization. What do you mean by Indus Valley civilization? So the basic question you need to ask is why this particular civilization is called Indus Valley civilization. So this civilization was found on the bank of river Indus. On the bank of river Indus. So that's why it is called Indus Valley civilization. Okay, we all know in the northwestern part of India we have Indus River, and this Indus River has 5 tributaries. And if you see the Indus Valley civilization, it is majorly across this particular river. So that is why it is called Indus Valley civilization. So I'll just show you the screen. I'll share my screen. You'll get a better idea about Indus Valley civilization. Yeah. I hope the screen is visible to all of you. Yeah. See, this is the Indus Valley civilization. Okay. So if you see, this entire part is the part of Indus Valley civilization. Okay. So this is in the northwestern part of India. You see, all these are the tributaries of river Indus: Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Bias, Sutlej, and then the Indus Valley, Indus River itself. And most of the sites of this particular civilization are in and around the Indus River and its tributaries, that is in the northwestern part of the Indian subcontinent, and hence this is called Indus Valley civilization. Clear? And hence it is called Indus Valley civilization. Okay, so these are some of the prominent sites. Of course, we'll discuss the sites in very detail when we take up the classroom. Right. So I hope why it is called Indus Valley civilization, it is clear to everyone. Because it is in and around the Indus River. Then why it is called Harappan civilization? You must have heard that Indus Valley civilization is also called as Harappan culture, Harappan civilization. Why? Because, again, let's go there. If you see this site, which is called Harappa, this site called Harappa is the first discovered site of Indus Valley civilization. Are you all able to see this site called Harappa? This Harappa site was the first discovered site of Indus Valley civilization, and hence it is also called as Harappan civilization because the first discovered site was Harappa. It is also called as Harappan civilization. So why Indus Valley civilization is also called as Harappan civilization? Are you clear? Everyone? Fine. So why Indus Valley civilization is important? The next question is, okay, in the ancient India, there is one civilization called Indus Valley civilization or Harappan civilization. Why is it important? The next question is, why is it important, right? Because there has to be some important features about this particular civilization, which must have enthusiastic our archaeologists, and that's why it is featuring prominently that we as a UPSC aspirant should know about it. Why is it important? It is probably the first time a civilization of this kind existed in Indian subcontinent. Civilization of this kind existed in Indian subcontinent, and also it is probably for the first time urbanization urbanization as a concept came to existence. Before Harappan civilization or the IVC, Indus Valley civilization, the man was a kind of free floater. He was moving here and there in search of food. He did not settle at one place. Even if he settled, he did not settle in such a big number. So again, I'm going back to this particular slide. You see the settlements rampantly happening in and around the Indus Valley. So many Indus sites or the Harappan sites came into existence within such a small distance. That means many people came and settled at various sites. So probably for the first time in the Indian subcontinent, the concept of urbanization came into existence. So that is why the Indus Valley civilization is extremely important as far as the Indian context is considered. So this is one important feature of Indus Valley civilization. It is the first form of urbanization witnessed in the Indian subcontinent. So what is this urbanization all about? So why is that there was no urbanization previously, and suddenly only in 2500 BCE a group of Indus sites came together and formed urbanization? What are the so this is the kind of analysis or questions you need to ask yourself to have much better clarity while you read a textbook or listen a class. I said it is the first kind of urbanization which has happened in Indian subcontinent. So why there was an urbanization? Previously there was no urbanization. Suddenly there is urbanization. What has happened? The idea behind that is the man who was for long moving in search of food now found out the way of cultivating the food. What do you mean by cultivating the food? He found out the way of doing agriculture. When he started doing agriculture, before that, man was a carnivore, purely carnivore. He used to go kill animals, take their flesh out and eat. Once that animal dies and the carcass of the animal is, eaten away by the bacteria and all, he used to move to other site in search of another animal, kill the animal, extract the meat, eat that and move on. But for the first time, he found a new friend in the form of plants. He domesticated plant. He understood that if he plants something, after a certain time, it will give him something to eat. So the man who was running for so long, suddenly could afford to sit down and wait for the plant to give him the food to eat. This was the game changer. So when man knew this trick of cultivating the plant, he started cultivating it on the large scale. Then he could get the food. Now man had time for other activities. He had more leisure. He had time for making a family. As a result, the families grew. Families grew. As the families grew, more and more families came down and settled at one part. And when they settled at one part, some part of the population was doing agriculture. The other parts now had a lot of leisure. What to do? Because agriculture, everyone need not plow the field, right? 10 people can give food for 30 or 40 people. So what should the remaining 20 people do? They started going into the secondary activities. So if the agriculture is the primary activity, what is the secondary activity? Carpentry, blacksmiths, goldsmiths, all these people are secondary activities. So they started working on the stones and make some sculptures. They started working on the mud and make certain pottery. They started working on ornaments and make beads. So all these secondary occupations came into picture. So the population grew, the people with leisure time grew, the people with secondary activities grew, and as a result, they started migrating to outside places. So the village is at the epicenter. The people are going away from the village and settling at some distance away from village, performing the secondary activities. And these centers became towns and cities. So the village is at the epicenter. There are a lot of cities and towns around it, and they are depending on the village for food. So this model is present even today. And because of the entire process, urbanization came into picture. So urbanization is not a very simple term. There is so much of definition, so much of process for an area to become urbanized. Today, urbanization is a different form. Even today, when we say urbanization, it is movement of people from villages to towns. So there are push and pull factors for urbanization today. That is different. But at that time, it was only a push factor. It was not a pull factor. Today in urban towns, we have better lifestyles, better schooling, better education, better health. So these are all pull factors which pull the people from villages to towns or cities. But at the time, there was only one factor, which is a push factor, and created urbanization. And in that context, for the first time, this happened in the history during the 2500 BCE around the Indus Valley River in the northwestern part of India. And hence, this entire urbanization or the civilization is called as Indus Valley Civilization. Is it clear, everyone? What is Indus Valley Civilization? What do you mean by urbanization? How does urbanization happen? So when you read concepts in this level, you will be in a much better position to answer any kind of question. Of course, I've spoken to you on a very, very basic level. I did not talk to you about surplus generation, because I know this is a bridge course and I don't want to go into much detail and confuse you people. But I'm trying to explain what is the level of understanding you need to have on a particular topic, because I have intentionally chosen these 5 to 10 topics for your class, because these topics are something which you people will get connected to in the first place, because you must have read it in your schools or colleges somewhere. And secondly, these topics are somewhere you can actually analyze and understand a lot. Okay. So in this context, now Harappan civilization has formed. Now, what do you mean by the next stage of Harappan civilization? There are many towns and cities like Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, Dholavira, Rakigari, Kalibangan, Lothal. All these are various cities in Harappan culture. So broadly, when we look at the Harappan culture, we see that we can understand certain aspects of their culture. We can understand certain aspects of Harappan culture. What are the important aspects of Harappan culture? Or the first striking feature of Harappan culture is the, the town planning or the urban planning of Harappan culture. A very, very important, popular, and famous UPSC question. What do you understand from Harappan town planning? So now we know that Harappa was a urban culture. So when urban culture comes into place, a lot of cities form, and each and every city has certain unique features. So the examiner is asking you, what are such features you have observed in Harappan civilization or Harappan town planning? Okay. So Harappan town planning. I'll again show you an image. Yeah. Yeah. So if you see, this is how the Harappan town planning looks like. Yeah. You see, this is the Dholavira city of Harappan culture or the Indus Valley civilization. Okay. You see, the town is divided basically into the citadel and the lower town. Okay. The citadel and lower town. So coming much more into this particular civilization, this is how it looks like. You see here, the streets, the streets cut each other at right angles. The streets cut each other at right angles. The houses are in a grid pattern. Are you able to see, everyone? The houses are in the grid pattern like a chessboard. There is something called great bath in most of the Harappan towns. Great bath. I'll tell you what is the significance of great bath. Similarly, there is something called granary. There is also something called granary. Okay, these are some of the prominent features, and there is something called citadel and lower town. Please remember these terminologies. So these are some of the photos of, pictures of Harappan towns, Harappan civilization. You see here, it's like a grid pattern streets. The houses face each other. It basically looks like a chessboard. There is a citadel which is on the raised platform, and the remaining thing is the houses of common people, also called as lower town, and the entire city is fortified. So what do you mean by fortified? The entire city is surrounded by a proper wall. So what happens is, first is the citadel. Citadel is on the raised platform. The prominent buildings of the Harappan city are on the citadel, like the great bath, the granary. So what do you mean by great bath? Great bath is like a ritual place where everyone in the town comes to that place for performing a common ritual or a public ritual. That is great bath. What do you mean by granary? It is basically like a warehouse or a storehouse where the produce, because we have seen that the cities are depending on the villages for food. So some food comes from villages. It is stored in the granary and used for the benefit of people. So granary. And then the houses are in a grid pattern. The streets cut each other in a rectangular way. And the entire houses are located like a chessboard. And then there is a lower town where the people, the houses of common people are found. And you must be surprised that the burnt bricks which we use today, the red bricks which are burnt over brick kilns, the entire construction of Harappan towns or cities was done by burnt bricks. Way back in 2500 BCE, burnt bricks were used. So extremely sophisticated technology at that point of time. And the entire Harappan city was properly having a drainage system. Like each and every house was having a drainage. The drainage would go and connect to a common drainage. Over more number of houses, the entire common drainage would get accumulated and that would be discharged outside the city. Such a sophisticated drainage system. So what are the important features of urban planning? Drainage system, grid type of houses, rectangular streets, great bath, granary, citadel, lower town, burnt bricks. That's all. So when you remember these important points, and when UPSC is asking you what are the important observations in Harappan cities, basically without you knowing, we all have discussed a UPSC 10 marker question. So citadel is a place which is raised on a platform. So basically we do not know much about the details of Harappan society, whether there was any caste system or whether there was any religion, because Harappans are natural worshippers. There is no Varna or Jati system during Harappa. But when we see the citadel and lower town, we definitely know that there are certain social differences in the society. So some constructions are on the raised platform, while the lower town is basically having houses of common people. So citadel is a prominent place which is distinguished by the lower town. It is basically constructions on raised platform are called is part of citadel. Clear? So by this discussion, we have actually discussed a previous year UPSC question for 10 marks. So what I am trying to say is, it's not that difficult. When you see UPSC, many of us are frightened how to clear prelims, how to clear mains and all, etc., etc. But I would like to tell you, it's not that difficult. With a systematic approach and continuous focus, all of you can achieve that particular goal. Of course, we are here to help you out. So all you need to do is you need to plan perfectly to achieve that goal. So that is some basics about Harappa. There are many other aspects of Harappan civilization, like the trade, the internal trade, the external trade, and what is the religious belief system of Harappa, what are the different seals used during Harappa, what are the beads, what do you mean by carnelian beads of Harappa, how did Harappan civilization, such a big, huge civilization, vanish or disappear? Did it really disappear? All these are the intriguing questions. What is the script of Harappans? How did they communicate? Are we able to understand their language? What are the important sites? What are the remains of the sites indicate? What is the speciality of Harappa? What is the speciality of Mohenjo-daro? What is the speciality of Dholavira? What is the speciality of Lothal? Did they have external trade? With whom did they have? What form of trade was it? So all these are some wonderful questions and interesting questions which we will of course deal when we in detail talk about this particular subject. So this was a brief overview of Harappan system, how Harappans came into existence, what do you mean by urbanization, and what is the form of urbanization, or what is the uh, urban town of Harappan look like. Is it clear? Yeah. Before going into our next topic, I'll just try to give some 5 minutes to you so that you can ask me any questions of your interest or of the topic which we discussed. Whatever questions you have, or if you have any, you can just type it in the chat window. How they categorize urban and rural. Manikanta, can you be more specific with your question? I did not get you. See, basically, what do you mean by urban or rural classification is, we all know that in the rural setting, occupation is basically primary occupation. What do you mean by primary occupation? Agriculture, right? So if you take the example of Hyderabad, the agriculture in Hyderabad is zero because it's completely urban. When we say it is semi-urban, that means agriculture is partially practiced. When we say it is completely rural area, you can see most of the people occupation is agriculture or primary sector. When the occupation of a set of people is changing from primary to secondary tertiary, it becomes more and more urbanized. So basically urban is because of occupation, number one, and number two is that we have many other infrastructure in urban areas. So that is the basis of classification. Clear? Yes, even in Harappan culture, as I told you, in the urban areas, all the secondary occupations were being practiced. They depended on the village for food, and that's why they had granaries to store food which they brought from villages. Clear? Yeah. Anything else? So far the discussion is clear. Can we move on? Fine. So that was about overview of Harappan culture. See, it's only hardly 5 to 10% of what we have discussed about Harappan culture. It is an interesting topic. It is a very important topic, and most of the times UPSC is asking repeated questions on Harappan culture. So obviously you need to have good understanding of this topic, which we'll do elaborately when we meet in our regular classes. So that was it. Coming to the next topic, which is the Jainism and Buddhism. Again, if you see the last maybe 10 years prelims mains papers, a lot of questions are coming on Jainism and Buddhism. Unfortunately, students tend to neglect this topic. And the problem with the present UPSC examination is there is nothing that you can leave to chance. Each and every topic is important. So when you leave a certain topic, you are unnecessarily putting yourself in a disadvantaged position. Never do that. That too, important and easy topics like Jainism and Buddhism. So, Jainism and Buddhism, again, you have to understand with regard to the conceptual clarity. Basically, Jainism is a much older religion compared to Buddhism. Both of them came into existence around 6th and 5th century BC. I hope you all know that in BCE, we come from the bigger number to lower number. For example, 10 BCE, 9 BCE, 8 BCE. BCE stands for before common era, and CE stands for common era. Okay, previously we used to give them the names of BC and AD. Now they are not honored. Now we have BCE and CE. BCE is before common era, CE is common era. That means the previously AD is now called CE, common era. So in BCE we come reverse, that is 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 BCE, 0 CE, 1 CE, 2 CE, and then it is like that, the numbers negative to positive. So 10 BCE is older than 9 BCE. 9 BCE means recent one. I hope you all know that. Even if you did not know, please know that BCE comes reverse. So Jainism came around the 6th, 7th century BCE, and the Buddhism came around 6th and 5th century BC. In Jainism, the Mahavira is considered to be one among the Jain monks. There are 24, 23 Jain monks. Amongst them, Mahavira is the last known Jain monk. Similarly, in Buddhism, Buddha is the first one, Gautam Buddha is the first one to have propagated the Buddhism. So obviously when you look at this, Jainism seems to be an ancient religion compared to Buddhism. But our subject of interest is not which religion came first or which came second. We are not so really bothered about why which religion came first. Harappans were natural worshippers. Aryans were natural worshippers. So it's all called, from Aryan time, we call it Vedic religion. Early Vedic, later Vedic. When already there is a Vedic religion, what was the necessity for Buddhism and Jainism to come into picture? What was the necessity? This is the subject of interest for us. There are many factual parts of Jainism, many factual parts of Buddhism, which we will obviously cover. What did Buddha say? What did Mahavira say? What are the important concepts of Buddhism? What are the important concepts of Jainism? What are the different forms of Buddhism? What are the different forms of Jainism? Different sects of Jainism, different sects of Buddhism. All this we'll do. Don't worry. People who have enrolled into the PCM batch, don't worry. We'll do all these things in detail. Each and every part of your examination syllabus will be covered. Don't worry about it. But now, for now, because we are just trying to interact and just have that ice breaking session kind of thing, and we are trying to expose certain part of history to you and try to make it more engaging and more interesting. When there is already a religion, there is already Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharna Veda, all these Vedas are there. There is already Vedic religion. Please don't get confused. At that time, the Hinduism did not evolve in complete nature. It is called Vedic religion. The Vedic religion is already existing. Then what was the purpose of Jainism and Buddhism? What purpose did these religions solve? These are the kind of questions you should ask. Whenever you read something, you have to, okay, Buddhism started in 6th century. This is a very raw way of preparing. Something which you must have done in your 7th or 8th class. Buddhism started in 6th century. That any person will tell the date. Date is not important. Analysis is important. So anyone know what is the reason for these particular religions to come up during the ancient India? Any guess? Anyone? Anyone would like to try? You may be wrong, but don't hesitate. No problem. You can be wrong, but try to guess what must be the reason. What might have been the reason? Okay, domination of Brahmins over other groups. Buddhism to be in a right way without any desire. Okay. What else? Good. You people are near. No issues. See, there is no wrong answer as such. So, Ramya, your point is also well taken. Gautam, your point is also well taken. Good. Both have relevance. Why the religions came up. Anything else? Any other guesses? Why? Okay. So, basically, from 2500 BCE to 1500 BCE, you had the Harappan culture. Up to 1700 BCE, you had Harappan culture. From 1500 BCE to 1000 BCE, it is called as early Vedic age, and also called as age of Aryans, also called as Rig Vedic age. So during Aryans, the system of religion was nature worship. The gods who were worshipped were Indra, Agni, Vayu. So Agni, Vayu, all these are nature, right? Earth. All these natural forces were worshipped during early Vedic age, that is Rig Vedic age. Aryans were natural worshippers. But during Aryans, a system called Varna system came into picture. What is this Varna system? Varna means color. But what is this Varna system? They categorized people into different Varnas based on the occupation. Please remember, based on the occupation. Someone who worships a god is Brahman. Someone who protects the clan is a Kshatriya. Someone who trades with other people is a Vaishya. Someone who serves the above three clans or above three Varnas is a Shudra. Please note, the division is based on the labor, division of labor. So, if a son born to Shudra goes on to worship the god, he is categorized as Brahman. So, the Varna was not decided by birth. So, anyone could become a Shudra, anyone could become a Brahman, and so on and so forth. The system had multiple entry and exit points. So, the Varna system as such was never discriminating in nature, because people were divided in the labors by division of labor, that is division of work. After 1000 CE came the latter Vedic age. What happened during latter Vedic age? Population grew suddenly because of more extensive agriculture. People settled down. Now the hierarchy is already there. Suddenly, the prominent groups of the hierarchy, the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, closed this hierarchy once for all. And now people were divided into Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra based on birth. And this Varna system now became Jati system, where the person is categorized into a particular Jati by birth. So son born to Brahman will become a Brahman. Son born to Kshatriya will become a Kshatriya. So a child born to Shudra will be Shudra. And now by birth, the occupations are defined. In early Vedic age, a Shudra's child can go on to become a Brahman. But now, Shudra's child will be Shudra and will have to serve the three above clans, that is Brahman, Kshatriya and Vaishya. Son of Brahman will be priest. Son of Kshatriya will be king himself. So these kind of rigidities came into the society, and this Varna system became Jati system. So that was one part of it. But what happened is the religion, the Vedic religion, which was initially what was the god, who were the gods worshipped? Agni, Vayu, all natural worshippers. As the latter Vedic age came into picture, new gods came into picture. Rudra, Vishnu, Brahma, new gods came into existence. Because of new gods, new religious practices came into existence. New samskaras came into existence. What do you mean by samskara? Samskaras are religious rituals. The religious rituals came into existence. When the religious rituals came into existence, The religion, which was very simple during the early Vedic age, now suddenly became complicated. Complicated, what do you mean by complicated? Religion getting complicated? Initially, there was nothing the religion was trying to demand from you. But now the religion became complicated. There are various samskaras, rituals. When you are blessed with a baby, you have to do a ritual. Before giving birth to a baby, the woman needs to undergo certain ritual. If the baby is not born in the auspicious time, you have to do a ritual. If the baby attains puberty, you have to do a ritual. If the baby gets, if the baby becomes a child and the child gets married, marriage is a ritual. Kanyadan. So that is a ritual. If you kill a cat, you have to perform a ritual. So for each and every stage of life, there were so many rituals. So are rituals really disturbing? No. Problem is, every ritual involved certain money. If you have to do some ritual, you have to have some money. You have to invest some money. If you have to do kanyadan, you have to perform a marriage, you have to spend money. If you have to do the thread ceremony, you have to spend some money. If you have to name your child, you have to spend some money. So all the rituals now costed. So the religion became costly, the religion became complex, the religion became more demanding. Why? This was because of the impact of the Brahmin class on the religion. The impact of the Brahmin class on the religion. So as a result, sometimes these danas had animals also. You have to donate a cow, you have to donate a bull, you have to donate a sheep, donate a goat. Or because the god is angry with you, you have to offer some animal to the god in the form of sacrifice. Are you able to understand? The religion, which was quite simple during early Vedic age, became extremely complicated, complex, and costly. Costly in the sense, now for everything in the religion you have to spend money. You don't know what that ritual is, because someone is interpreting that ritual for you, who's a Brahmin. They are interpreting that ritual, and you have to perform that ritual, or else you will not reach heaven, you will go to hell. And in order to perform that ritual, either you have to sacrifice an animal, donate an animal, or spend some money. All these aspects were now taking a lot of burden on the common man. Various aspects of religion were taking toll on the common man. In this context, also there was a Cold War kind of thing between the supremacy of Brahmins versus the Kshatriyas. Brahmins were deciphering the Vedas and explaining it to the common people. Kshatriyas felt they are the ones who are actually protecting the people. They are supreme. Brahmins said, we are supreme. So the competition between Brahmins and Kshatriyas, the competition within the religion, the complexity and the cost of religion, all were piling up, piling up, piling up, piling up over centuries. And finally, it took a person called Gautam Buddha, who came out and said, enough is enough. You need not do all these things to go to heaven. all that you need is follow a middle path. No extremes, no carving for materialistic pleasures. Just take the middle path. Believe in the God, and the moment you come out of these materialistic pleasures, you would have attained nirvana. And over a period of time with nirvana, if you practice a very decent way of life, you will attain parinirvana, which is nothing but moksha in Vedic religion. For Vedic religion, if you have to attain moksha, you need to do so many samskaras. In Buddhism, you need to leave everything and just believe in the God. Similarly, Jainism said you have to have faith in the Tirthankara, who is the Guru, and come out of all these worldly pleasures. Don't kill anything, don't harm anyone. Believe in knowledge, faith, and conduct. You will attain nirvana. That is, nirvana in Jainism is moksha. Parinirvana in Buddhism is moksha. So, this nirvana concept came from there. And the reaction to the Vedic religion is your formation of Buddhism and Jainism. Is the concept clear? The background of advent of Buddhism and Jainism? Or do you have any doubt? No. Vedas, the Varnas are not exactly mentioned. The Varna system is there. It is in Manusmriti for the first time, which was compiled during the Gupta age. The Varnas are actually mentioned, and how different Varnas came out from God are mentioned. So basically, there are very details, certain details of Buddhism we have to know, like what is this Ashtangika Marga or the middle path of Buddhism? Who was this Gautam Buddha? What was his background? How he went on to become the great person he is? What are the different form of Buddhism? Okay, basically we have different forms of Buddhism: the Mahayana Buddhism and the Hinayana Buddhism. What is this Mahayana and Buddhism, and what is this Hinayana Buddhism? What are the subcategorizations of this Buddhism? What was the impact of Buddhism on Indian art and culture? What was the concept of, how was the concept of Buddhism enshrined into Indian constitution? So this is your name. I am unable to know. AK is your this thing. So Mahabharata, the sites related to Mahabharata, which is the Indraprastha, What is your name, AK? Can I get it? Kushal. Okay. So Kushal, the timeline of Mahabharata, because it is an epic of Hindu religion, we all believe in it, but the timeline mainly is confined to the latter Vedic age. The Hastinapura, Indraprastha, all these are the prominent sites of Mahabharata, right? So these are all latter Vedic sites. So Rig Veda came much before the latter Vedic age. So the caste system existed during Mahabharata. When you are saying that, it is true that the caste system existed during the latter Vedic age. So if you equate the latter Vedic age with the Mahabharata, then you will understand that the caste system existed during Mahabharata epic also. Is it clear? Okay. So now we are talking about the age which is after Mahabharata. In your language, it is after the early Vedic age, sorry, latter Vedic age. We are talking about the timeline of 6th to 5th century BCE. So by that time, caste system has been already into the society of India. And that's why the religion became complex, complicated, and costly, dominated by a selected few. Right? So try to understand the context in which the new religion has come up, especially the Buddhism and the Jainism. So the advent of Buddhism and Jainism, what is the context, what is the background is clear, I hope. So coming to the Buddhism, what is this Mahayana? What is this Hinayana? We need to know. What is this Ashtangika Marga or the middle path proposed by Buddha? We need to know. Influence of Buddhism on Indian culture, Indian constitution, Indian way of life, or Indian philosophy. We need to know. Then coming to Jainism, what are the important preachings of Jain monks? What is importance of knowledge, faith, and conduct? What are the important proponents of Jainism? What are the different sects of Jainism? What do you mean by Shvetambaras? What do you mean by Digambaras? What are the important teachings of Jain monks? Though Buddhism and Jainism at one point had equal patronage, why did Buddhism become a very popular religion? Why did Jainism decline in its popularity? We need to know. What is the reaction of the Vedic religion to these two religions? So this new religions is a challenge to Buddhism and Jainism. Sorry, to the Vedic religion. How did Vedic religion encounter this challenge? How a religion which was as famous as Vedic religion in the 5th century BC declined by the time of 10th century CE, and today there are hardly any Buddhists. How Buddhism, which is a popular religion in India, spread to other parts of Asia and world but declined within India. How Jainism, which was at one of the greatest heights during the ancient India, by the time medieval and modern came, hardly any traces of Jainism. All these are very important questions we need to address. This we will do in our classroom. What is the importance of Jainism and Indian concept? How is non-violence the important aspect of Indian freedom struggle devised by Mahatma Gandhi, actually borrowed from Jainism? So that is why when I say history has certain continuity, you have to relate these kind of things. That is expected out of you. It is not like reading Buddhism and Jainism in isolation and then forgetting them. You have to relate these concepts to each and every part of the syllabus and make them part of your answers. That is how you actually get a complete understanding of the subject. We'll definitely do lot about Buddhism, Jainism very much in detail when we do our classroom program. But for now, the advent of Buddhism and Jainism, scenarios in which these religions have come up. Of course, both Gautam Buddha and Mahavira are Kshatriyas, and when kings take up certain religions, they become very popular. So, because of patronage of these religions by the kings, they became very popular. They became very popular. So, one is the religious issues of the Vedic religion, and then the patronage of Kshatriyas and the popular kings. This made both these religions famous at one point of time in the ancient India. Is it clear how these religions have come up? What is the context in which they have come up? So it was a reaction to religious hegemony of Vedic religion. Fine? Is everyone clear about it? Okay. So for next 10 to 15 minutes, I would leave the forum open because let's not go deep into the history topics because we are trying to do the bridge course. Just try to expose you to various concepts of history, make you feel comfortable, make you believe that these subjects are not so difficult actually. Let me be honest. So you have done economy, geography, polity, you must have had some very good sessions. Okay. But when you again go and look at them, you will feel that, yeah, these subjects can be tackled with proper revision. So that is the kind of positive attitude you must have when you start the UPSC journey. So, yeah, before we wind up today's session and meet for tomorrow, I would like to, give you all some 5 to 10 minutes where you can just ask some questions related to history or any matter of preparation as such. Please. Yeah, anything some of you want to ask in particular? I think you people can unmute yourself and ask anything. So Manikanta, which subject are you asking about? When you are talking about books, which subject you are asking about? History. So basically you see, for UPSC journey, for any starter, as our course says, the prominent books which you have to refer is NCERTs. Okay. The prominent books you can refer is NCERTs. When you do NCERTs, you get certain awareness on the basics. You revise them. Then maybe you can go to next level textbooks. But even your textbooks are majorly again previous NCERT books only. So for a non-history optional student, I would suggest NCERTs from 7th class to 12th class on history. If you do them in detail, you will be in a very comfortable position in attempting any history question, be it in prelims or mains. Okay? Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. So, so what we have done today broadly is the Harappan civilization, Jainism and Buddhism. Okay. So in ancient, you have few more important topics like the Mauryan Empire, which is part of the Magda dynasty, Mauryan Empire. Then the post-Mauryan influx of foreign dynasties like the Indo-Greeks, Parthians, Kushanas. Okay, and then we talk about Satavahanas. We talk about the Gupta Empire, the post-Gupta Empire, Harshavardhana. This is basically your ancient syllabus. Ancient is important. It is interesting as well. Let me be honest, it is interesting. So if you revise it for 2 or 3 times, you will find it very comfortable, very interesting. And as far as your UPSC is concerned, because it speaks about culture, right? Culture also, be it your Buddhist stupas, the temple constructions during Gupta age, the Mauryan architecture, art, Gupta coins, Satavahana patronage to Buddhism and Jainism, the contribution of foreign kingdoms like Shakas, Indo-Greeks, Parthians and Kushanas to Indian culture, how they have impacted Indian culture. All these are pertinent questions or important aspects you have to understand in ancient India. There are certain important things which you have to know, which we'll obviously discuss. My suggestion to all of you is read history with a lot of interest. Then the entire approach for the subject will change. And you will feel very comfortable when you read it with such enthusiasm. More importantly, ancient and medieval, because of late in prelims, questions are significantly coming from ancient and medieval India. You have to be prepared for it. The only way to be prepared is having interest and study it. In that context, ancient history is very, very important for UPSC. Because even in your mains, you are directly getting 10 markers, 20 markers, 15 marker questions. And having good conceptual clarity on ancient will put you in very good advantage when compared to other aspirants. So tomorrow when we meet, we'll do some important dynasties of medieval age. So ancient, as I told you, has these concepts. We'll do that in detail when we do our PCM course. Tomorrow we'll get exposed to certain medieval dynasties and we'll focus more on modern India, which happens to be one of the most important topic for UPSC. So I hope the session was useful to you. Today's session of 2 hours. So we basically discussed on some aspects of ancient India, the approach. So more than concept or the facts which I have given you, I want you all to concentrate on the thought process. How to think on a certain topic, which will enrich our understanding. That is the main takeaway you must have. Because concepts, facts, figures, these are available everywhere. What I want you people to take away is the thought process. How we are trying to get deeper into the topic. How we are trying to generate facts or generate important points from the topic. These are the things which you need to understand. These are the takeaways. So when we do tomorrow's class, I again want you all to think in the same lines, similar lines, and come up with good, way of thought process to understand the topic better. This approach will not only help you in history, but across all the GS subjects in the UPSC preparation, where your understanding is reflected and that will be appreciated. Please remember, if you have your own understanding and if you reflect that understanding, that will be highly appreciated by UPSC. Okay, is it clear, everyone? Fine. So on that note, we'll wind up today's session and again meet up for tomorrow. Okay, so tomorrow we'll do certain topics in the similar lines, not extremely deeper. We'll try to get some understanding and again go about it. Okay, thank you.